Welcome to all of you out there, dear astrology friends. This is a video with me, Veerle, Astro Veerle, and let's talk about Saturn. Saturn in the sign of Aries. What is this all about? And what is the flavor of this energy in general? And then I'm going to have a look for all the 12 signs where this Saturn is transiting in the area of your life. And it's going to be interesting because Saturn stays approximately in a sign like 1.5 to 2.5 years. And let's break it down the specifics. First and foremost, to get this out of the way, the nitty gritty, Saturn is now in Pisces and it's going to enter on around and about the 26th of May. Of 2025, it's going to enter Aries. So at 0 degrees of Aries, it's not going to stay there for the rest of the year because it's going to tiptoe back into Pisces a tiny little bit. But it's going to stay there full on up until like 1 degree of Aries, up until the end of August of 2025. So between now, May, and August, it's Saturn and Aries. Then it tiptoes from September back into Pisces up until the 13th of February of 2026. And then on Valentine's Day, the 14th of February of 2026, it goes back into Aries and it stays there for approximately the 14th of April of 2028. Now, as we have the specifics out of the way, we know how long it's going to stay there. First of all, what does it mean, Saturn in Aries? And then, very important as well, what are the other big planets doing with Saturn now coming into a different sign? Is it working well with other planets like Pluto, Uranus, Neptune? What is it doing? Before I go into that, I want to say that I already made a video about Neptune in Aries. So probably know that the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is crucial for this Saturn entering in the sign of Aries. I want to start with that. Why? Because Saturn in Aries specifically is one thing. But when you combine it with a Saturn in Aries together with a Neptune in Aries, it's a different story. And we have to keep in mind that we have these two planets joining together and entering this new sign of Aries. And they're going to stick together, Saturn and Neptune, for a long time. Actually, you could say from May time up until August time, they are together in this new energy of the beginning, the first degree, the 0 to 1 degree of Aries. So they're joining together, which means that what I'm saying about Saturn is true. But you always have to keep in mind that Neptune is there as well. So every time when I'm doing for all the 12 signs, Saturn in the first house, Saturn in the second house, you have to keep in mind that it's also Neptune in the first house, Neptune in the second house. And to be honest, it's contradictory energy. So Saturn contracts, Saturn slows down, Saturn is reality. And you could say Neptune is breaking boundaries, Neptune is openness, Neptune is idealism. So you've got the realist and the idealist coming together. So we have to keep that in mind. That on the background, what is most important for May and August of 2025, it's making your dreams come true. There's an opportunity here. Yes, we can always choose the downside, but it's us who can... What was that? A noise. I hope this is not gonna... Well, it means it's important. You give meaning to whatever you want to give meaning to, right? However you want to do it. But Saturn conjoining with Neptune means that Saturn realizing Neptune, the ideal. Of course, it can be the other way around. That Neptune is confusing too much. It's too much of a Neptune. And it's losing its boundaries. Saturn is the boundaries and Neptune is bigger than that, you could say. And it kind of makes people insecure and depressed. So you choose, what do you want to do? Do you want to make a dream come true by being and Saturn and Neptune? Or are you going to give just attention to one planet, which is either Neptune or either Saturn, which means you're too fearful, you're not going to do anything. So it's a beautiful thing with them coming together, but it's a challenge. It's a challenging conjunction. But the purpose of this on the most positive level, because energies and planets are neutral, it's what we make out of it, we better make that dream come true. So in that specific area where I'm going to explain where Saturn is, there is a dream there that you can make true by having the balance between having the vision and the ideal, but also doing the practical actions. Now, what is Saturn and Aries all about? Of course, you don't have to know a lot about astrology to know that these are contradictory energies. The Aries is represented by, Aries is the first house, right? It's the body. It's the life path that you're going to take. The first house is the ascendant. Aries is the existence, so to speak. And it's ruled by Mars, so it wants to go forward. It wants to take action. And you hear me coming. Saturn is, oh, are you sure? Saturn is all about taking responsibility. It's all about discipline. It's not a bad or a good planet. It is what it is. But it might seem as it slows down stuff. And it might seem that it kind of caution turns into fear. So typically what you have, look at people who've got Saturn and Aries in their natal chart, or Saturn in the first house on the ascendant. These are people who are super cautious, who are, like they say, a little bit old for their age, definitely when they are younger, and that they are cautious to take steps in life. Is that a bad thing, a good thing? I mean, that's up to you. But you can use it, of course, in your advantage. And in your advantage, this is actually having a lot of fire, having a lot of willpower, but you're also cautious. So it's up to you to decide if that is a good thing or a bad thing, but that is the way to be and to guide yourself throughout that area of your life where you have Saturn and Aries, right? So it's a lot about Saturn and Aries. Again, when people have this in their chart, it's not that they are lazy. It's not that they, it's just a lot of fear that is involved here. A lot of people on a lower, you could say, when you're not conscious of this, you could be very fearful of taking the next step in your life. And that is because you are cautious of taking actions and you are worried about a responsibility. Responsibilities can become very heavy for a person like that. Also in social activities, so to speak, that they feel that this heaviness in life, right? Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn and the ancient ruler of Aquarius. So this is really about being a bit reserved even. So if you would have Aries as an ascendant, for instance, that shows someone who's very outgoing, someone who takes the next step and who goes, who is a bit impulsive even sometimes. But with Saturn on it, it's like people who are, ooh, they're scared. There's stairs here. Ooh, we're going to slow down. We're going to have a look. We're going to worry. We're going to, are we going to do the stairs? They're going to do the stairs, but they're going to do it a bit slower than all the rest. And of course, in life, that could mean that they lose opportunities because of that being scared. And, but what it does with these people when they are becoming a little bit older, it means that they know they're not going to have to take a shortcut. That's not their style. So the ascendant, Aries, the first house, is how you drive in your life. Are you driving a sports car? Which is the case when you have an Aries ascendant. But when Saturn on it, it's a Volvo, right? It's like, what a comparison. But, it's like decent, these things are good, but it's because of the decency, it's also quite slow. So another good thing about this is with these people, when you watch them and analyze what they're going through, and working with a lot of people with Saturn and Aries are in the first house, because of the introspection, they, you could say they don't trust, right? But when they do the inner work, where this is coming from, and the inner work, because that is what is demanded with Saturn in Aries, it's looking within, they can put foundations for a long, long term. And because of inner reflection, they create better boundaries. And not boundaries like, overly protectionism, which has its consequences as well, but, in a healthy way. So you see, it's how you look at it. And let's have a look at, of course, Saturn in Aries, being with Neptune. So there's a combination of idealism, making ideals come true, but in the way with Saturn in Aries, which means slow steps, don't take shortcuts. So the advice is, in the area of your life where you have Saturn there in Aries, slowly, you want to go fast, but master it. Master it and take each step with this reality check. And, the challenge is to not kind of go into guilt, go into I'm not worth it. Because Saturn in Aries is a lot about feeling guilty that you are entitled, feeling guilty that you take space. So that's the lesson of Saturn in Aries. You don't have to feel guilty to take space. You are like every other human being, entitled for luck, happiness, love, you name it. So it's that entitlement that is worked upon. It's on it's about understanding this on an inner level. It's going within. So you've got it's a very weird energy, but a very interesting one, because it's about being outgoing and at the same time being an extrovert and being an introvert at the same time. It's a paradox, but it's doable because it's there, this energy. So we can use it in a way that we want. Aries is the new, it's the pioneer. So there is definitely, when Saturn enters Aries for us, an area of our life where we have an opportunity to make a dream come true in that area, but it's a new thing now. And if we want to do it the right way up until 2028, we better do it with small steps and a lot of introspection, a lot of looking within, not looking there, that's the problem, looking within, but not too much that you feel guilty all of the time, right? So it's a very interesting energy, for sure. And I know that a lot of astrologers, and of course they will say Saturn doesn't like to be in Aries. That's true, but it doesn't mean to say that Saturn doesn't like to be in Aries, that's a bad thing, right? You make it what you want to make it. So let's make it a good thing, Saturn in Aries. The cautiousness, the introspection, together with a new start of something, with a dream. And within 2 years from now, or 2.5, we're going to see that, because Saturn only gives the reward after the transit. So let's delve into this, in this very, very interesting energy. And besides this Saturn Neptune, I wanted to mention, so we have that Saturn Neptune that is the most important. The thing is, when Saturn enters Aries, it's going to get support as well from Pluto and Uranus. I'm not going to delve too much into this, but in May, up until August of this year, we're going to have a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius with Saturn. That's beautiful, because Saturn and Pluto are builders. They are constructors, so to speak. So they work together, which is beautiful. The transformation is also working here. And then the sextile to Uranus means, so actually you're having Saturn in a sextile to Uranus is also beautiful. And that also works from, you could say, the 8th of July, when Uranus enters Gemini, up until August of 2025. That is the balance between, a sextile means a nice energy between the old and what is good and what you need to contain and preserve, Saturn, and then Uranus, the new, the innovation, the new stuff that we want to implement, and the balance between that. So that there's going to be balance, and that's a nice thing. So that is a bit, it's not all just the difficult, the challenging Saturn, Neptune. No, there's good stuff also that is helping us. Anyway, let's get into this. Aries, for Aries. So of course, all the intro is very important because it's all about you, dear Aries people. So you're going to have Saturn in the first house. Now, the first thing, and I'm smiling because this is maybe some people are going to find this trivial, but when I see that Saturn is coming into the first house, and particularly, this is a big thing. I mean, this happens once every 30 years, Saturn coming into your first house. And it's like a rebirth, I would say. It's a rebirth, but on a higher maturity level. That's in a nutshell what Saturn coming into the first house is all about. So a lot of you feeling very responsible in a way. But with a smile on my face, I was thinking about weight loss. A lot of people ask me sometimes, oh yes, weight loss. And I try to start something new and they ask me when, and then you see Saturn coming over the ascendant. Literally, Saturn is a contractor. The first house, Aries, is the body. So yes, if you want to lose weight, this is a very good start around May. So when is it? In particular, what the 26th? Yeah, the 26th of May, to start a regime, to start some working out, because it's longevity. It will be easier for you to not only to start, but to keep on going. So that's one thing. Another thing is, as I said, whether you are 12, of course, this is better when you are a little bit older. So there's a difference if you are 12 years old and you're having Saturn on the ascendant, instead of being 40 years old or 30 years old and having Saturn crossing the ascendant. So it shows a new life path, but with you putting the foundations. It's like with, if you bought a house and it's an old house, the first year is very important because you're doing the foundation first. You're not going to start with the windows, or you're not going to start with painting. You're going to start with the foundation. And this is the same for Saturn. So literally, you're working on your body to make it stronger. That's the first thing. Saturn over the ascendant is also to take care of your body. Absolutely. To be aware of that and to take care of your body. But it's a lot about self-mastery. So I've seen people having this when they started their business. I've seen people having this when they got a baby. I've seen people having this when they relocated into a new country and having to start all over again. So you see, it's quite big. But it's when you are a bit older, it's fantastic, especially when you want this energy. If you're someone who, whatever the age is, you can be 60 and you can say responsibilities, no thank you very much, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough transit then. So be open for this responsibility, and it's going to give you more discipline. It's going to give you more boundaries. So if you're someone who says like, oh, you know, I'm in my 30s or 40s or whatever, and I'm having no boundaries with people, this is going to shift. You're going to be way more cautious with other people. You're going to put more boundaries with other people. And that's good because it shows that it was needed during this time. So you might have felt that you had no boundaries at all, and now you have this opportunity to restore this and to take back your power. Saturn is a very disciplined, but also it's a bit of authority. I've seen it many times that people, especially if they are open for responsibilities, that they kind of find their own authority. So starting your own business and so on, it's very good. It's taking a serious plan for your future. It is very good, and attracting new people will be also the case because you're like, you're like a new identity, a more Saturnal, Capricornial kind of identity. Although it is in Aries, of course, you're never, when this is your sun sign. I want to say sunshine for some reason, right? See it as the sunshine that you are growing now, but it's a maturity growth for sure. The only thing to watch out for is to not be too judgmental, right? You can take space, but you're doing it slowly and you're working slowly but surely. So instead of doing 3 projects, you do 1. You focus on 1. Instead of opening 3 businesses, start 1. But you will feel that energy anyways. It could mean that you feel a little bit less energy because you feel that you have that responsibility to make it right. It's like you're putting your hands on the steering wheel and now you have that courage to start, but you also know that there's only you who's responsible for the growth or the challenges. But the thing is, it's developing courage because you're doing it, and that's very important. So, of course, yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is in relationships as well. Opening up to a new level of how you kind of see yourself. You're seeing yourself more serious. It's amazing for these new levels and these new starts in your life, like a new company starting or a new job or a new relationship with better boundaries. It depends on your story, but this is the energy. So embrace it. Taurus, you're going to have Saturn in your 12th house. Now, what is this all about? So Saturn is that planet of seriousness, of discipline, of reality check. And the 12th house is that house of the unconscious. It's the house of letting go. It's the house of letting go of old patterns. And it's the house of where we are relaxing. Now, in the beginning, because when this Saturn comes into a sign, it's always the hardest when it comes into that sign. In the beginning, this is about letting go of things that are hard to let go of, period. If you remember that, you can stop this video. This is about letting go of things that are not easy to let go of. And I'm talking here about things that are, of course, emotionally the unconscious. It's the unconscious. It's a cleanup for sure, and you want to clean up, and you feel you have to clean up. But it can be a bit tougher or more challenging what to keep and that you say, yeah, that's what I'm going to let go of. Now, this can be relationships, this can be whatever it is in your life that is no longer suiting you, because Saturn, before it comes into your sign, which will be in 2028, it needs to do this cleanup of stuff that is no longer suiting you. So how can you help this energy? Because that's the challenge. Well, to not deny this, and that, yes, it might be difficult to let go of in the beginning, but what are you doing when this is tough? You start with the little things. Remember, Saturn in Aries, you want to have that mastery, and you want to start very small. So start, for instance, what I always recommend when people have Saturn in the 12th house, it is to clean up your closet with clothes. For instance, what do you want to keep? What do you want to let go of? And that already in itself might be very challenging. But the more you train that muscle of the letting go, the easier it's going to get for these, of course, unconscious patterns that are no longer suiting you. And that can be thousands of patterns, right? I can only name a couple of them, of course, because of this video. But a pattern that is no longer suiting you could be, for instance, like, and definitely because it's in Aries, that you are not taking space in a connection, in a relationship. You're not taking space. You're not doing that. You are always standing, or you think that this is not necessary, you're not worthy, and whatnot. And it's that kind of pattern that you are working on to let go of, although it is hard. You're doing it anyways. So, it is about that subconscious and about those vulnerabilities that you're trying either to hide or you don't know them yourself, but other people see it. You know, the 12th house, very often other people are seeing it, but you're not seeing it. So it's about working on those blind spots. It is a very good energy to become more practical with spirituality and to not fear it so much. You know, typical people who are born with Saturn in the 12th, for instance, they are very afraid of spirituality and that they would lose themselves and so on. But with practicing this and on a very practical level, like doing some yoga, doing some meditation and so on, working with it in a very practical way can help you for sure. So Saturn is always working hard, right? And in the 12th house, you can work to learn how to meditate, to learn how to relax, to learn how to let go. These things, but it's also battling Saturn, battling your unconscious patterns. And a beautiful thing is that this Saturn here, Saturn is mastery, and the 12th house is what we don't know about ourselves. So there is here, if you work on this, you will get a mastery of your unconscious patterns. And that gives you a tremendous strength. So when Saturn is in 2028, you can start something new. You can get that upgrade with a higher maturity level. So very beautiful energy behind the scenes. Not the easiest one though. Another thing that you can do is Saturn in the 12th house. The 12th house is the house of, it's the house of the, you could say, expenses as well, big expenses, but also the house of helping others, that are in need. You could do some charity work, for instance, structurally doing this so that this energy expresses itself in a good way. That's another thing. Or it could mean for some people who are just starting to work, it could mean that they're going to work in a hospital or in prisons or, because that's typical. The 12th house is associated with these environments. So it depends on what your story is, but it definitely is a cleanup. And it's definitely, if you want to tackle your addictions, for instance, it's definitely through that Saturnal discipline. So consistent doing every day something and working on it every single day instead of with peaks and lows and peaks and lows. Okay, that was for Taurus. Gemini, this is happening for you, this transit in Aries, which sextiles your energy. So that means this Saturn is working easier for you, and it's in your 11th house. So what is this all about? Let's break it down. So Aries is your 11th house. So this shows a boldness in friendships, an openness in friendships, doing a lot of activities with friendships, also having goals for the future. This shows a lot of optimism in your chart already with Aries on your 11th house. Saturn on it means like, okay, this is a house we're going to work hard in this couple of years. So Saturn entering this 11th house can mean a couple of things. Friends, goals for the future, and you could say gains that you're having. So let's start with the friends. So when Saturn comes into the sign of Aries, it can mean that there is some seriousness here. Again, depending on your story. Maybe you just started to have friends. Now they're going to be more Saturnal, maybe older, serious, but also very active because of Aries. Now, when you have an existing friendship, it could mean that there is one or more that you say, this is tough. I have to invest a bit more in them because you didn't over the years. Let's say you worked hard the last decade and now you're having Saturn in the 11th house. This simply means invest in your friends. Work for the friendship. You see how different this is when it comes to your situation. So before you're even taking this information from me, ask yourself, how is this topic going on now in my life, right? And so for a lot of you people who have neglected friends and you want them, you really want to start this, well, invest in them. Invest consciously and consistently, right? Not just all calling them for the new year and then don't let yourself, hear anything from you for a whole year. No, consistently. And that's gonna give you gains when Saturn is leaving this house. On another level, of course, this could mean that you have a lot of friends, and now testing times. It seems like they are not that good for you, or they are no longer, you kind of feel a bit cold or difficult with these friends. You don't feel aligned. You don't feel connected so much. Well, there's a reason for that. So you can say like, okay, that is because of whatever reason. Maybe you have grown very much and you have outgrown your friends. It could be something like as simple as that as well. But again, remember, Neptune is here as well. So there's an ideal here. Go for the ideal and go with simple steps here. Or you might say, I have too many, it's taking too much of my energy. And I'm having social media here, and I have an Instagram, YouTube channel. I have Instagram, I have this and that. I'm going to go for one social media channel. It could be that as well. Remember, this is a sextile to your energy, so this is not the heaviest transit for you. Another thing is this is goals for the future. So it could mean that you have 10. If you have 10 goals, it's time now to go to one goal, for instance, or maybe two. You see, it's like the goal, the dream. Neptune is there as well. Yes, you can have it, but work consistently on it. And another thing is the gains. So if you have your own, if you're self-employed, Saturn it could mean that you are starting, that you have your own business and you're getting Saturn through the 11th house. I see that a lot, but that's typical because you're starting. So you have to work for those gains harder than someone who already has the experience and who already has a business for 5 years. And it seems like they might have Jupiter going through their 11th house, right? Which is the opposite, which is like, yeah, it flows. So this is temporary. But if you use this energy the right way, if you work hard for those gains, if you invest a lot in the work, right? And in taking those actions, because it's in Aries, then you will, when Saturn leaves this house, you can get a lot of gain, right? So yes, it's really testing time, but it's also a financial house, as I said. So more hard work. Don't be afraid of this, right? It is for everyone different. So yes, disconnecting, trying hard to fit in, cautious with friends, loyal, but also being cautious with friends, yes, but also very loyal to friends. So again, less is more. You can work hard for your friendships with Saturn going through the 11th house. So what else? Another good thing, if you say, oh my goodness, I already have my own company and now I'm seeing Saturn coming into the 11th house. Well, work on giving back to society and see it like that. Because the 11th house is a society house, so to speak. It's a very public house. So you can do that. And then you're going to gain respect when Saturn leaves that house. So it's a bit of a contribution to society, so to speak. I'm not saying that you have to give everything away for free. That's not what I'm saying. But to give a little bit more effort. And Aries is maybe trying something new, pioneering in something. But again, let's say you do my work. You do the YouTube and so on and so on. Now Saturn in the 11th, gains. Are they going to go down? Well, I might be working for something new and put a little bit more effort in that gain. Maybe starting a workshop, doing a workshop here in Belgium or maybe somewhere else. And it's going to take some time to start up and to learn and to, it's your learning school. And then after 2 years off you go, you are the master in it. You see, Saturn is mastery, mastery in the 11th house, mastery when you lead organizations and groups of people and a network. Very beautiful. Okay, next, Cancerians. Cancerians, this is, of course, for you a square. So this means a challenging aspect because it squares. You are a cardinal sign. Aries is also a cardinal sign. So it squares your sign to the 10th house, the top of your chart. Now, this is also depending on how old are you, what is your situation. Now, let's assume you're not 12 years old. And but Saturn in the 10th house is, again, the 10th house. It's in big chunks. It's your career, but it's also your social status. It's also your connection with parents, right? And Saturn is coming in. So all of these things, certainly in the beginning, Saturn is this testing energy, hardworking energy, mastery. So you can have mastery of the career, but that is afterwards, right? When this transit is done, you can have mastery of the career. You can have your own leadership of your career. There could be something saturnal going on with a parent or parents, which is, a bit of a disconnecting or a feeling of disconnecting, or they feel disconnected. There's something in their life that has a knock-on effect on you, right? So whatever it is, it's about accepting this, and it's about accepting that these energies are around you, but showing you that there is a maturation. There is definitely here a stepping up, an upgrade that you're getting in how you deal with your own life when it comes to your purpose, 10th house, your social status, right? Social status, what do I mean? You can be single and having no children, to you shift your social status to being married and having children. That's a shift in social status. So this could mean that you make that shift and you work hard for that, Saturn. So whatever it is, this shift, it's going to be better when you work hard and do step by step than denying it. What I've seen typically when I start with, for a lot of people, it's about their career. It's like they know they either get more responsibility, or it's almost like you're afraid of success. I see a lot of people when Saturn cross, and they're in their, they are adults, let's put it that way. And when you're very young, like 18 years old, this could mean that you leave the house and you go for work. Saturn on the midheaven, you're taking responsibility for your own career. You can grow very fast in those 2.5 years. That's the story. Now, for most people who are already in a career and they see Saturn coming in, it means that the job that they're doing, especially when you don't feel you have leadership over your own job, when you feel you don't have bossiness over your own job, even if you work for someone, you can have that feeling that they are very authoritarian, Saturn on the midheaven, that they are very, critical. Now you can do two things. Either you follow the rules that they are telling you because you think, yes, I can grow through this. They're true. I don't sell well. I'm in sales, and they're giving critics, and I use the critics to become better. You could either do that, or if you're saying the critics make no sense at all, you can take your own authority, and you can either go to a new company or you start your own business, right? Or so I've seen that many times with Saturn on the midheaven. The best thing you could do is take authority. The best thing you can do is take that leadership, because it shows that you're energetically, that you're ready, right? I remember when I had that Saturnal transit on my midheaven, that I realized I was not happy in the job I was doing, and they were so demanding. And the more I did, the more demanding they were. But it was soul wrecking. Saturn is that cold planet. And that's when I realized, by going intro, introspection, that, hey, what do you want to do? Do you really want to go further with this? Or do you want to use all this energy that you actually have for yourself and for your own company? And I did. But I did that exactly, very, very slowly. Saturn in the 10th house, very slowly. And don't wait for what I can give you as advice, Saturn going to your 10th house, which is a bit of a challenging energy, but it gives so big rewards. It gives you the authority after 2.5 years. It gives you the leadership after 2.5 years. But how to get through that is by not searching for validation from your boss, from the public. No. It's giving yourself validation. That means two things. Not undermining yourself, that you're the worst and you're the victim and, oh, I'm not good in it, blah, 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 blah. Or you learn. You learn, you're in a company and you say, I work so hard. Maybe you are just starting with the work. And you see like, oh my goodness, what is this? But you're going to learn a lot. You know, this toughness, this self-sufficiency around leadership. It's a beautiful thing. So, yes, and it's being serious in career for sure. It's a lot of responsibility there, but it's that it is demanded and it's the best thing. So if you feel criticized by your boss, I would say take it personal if you want to grow in that area and you think your boss is right. If you say like, oh, you know, my boss is saying that I have to work up until 2:00 in the morning. I think, and every single day, thank you very much. You have to being your own best employee or being your own best advocate for having your own job and exploring there what you're going to do. So criticizing the worker or the boss is not going to help you either, right? So introspection, what do you want when it comes to work? What do you want, right? It's like Saturn in the 10th. When people have that in a natal chart, it's a lot about working in the corporate world and climbing the ladder slowly. So put in, if you say, yeah, I can do this 2.5 years. So, you know, climbing the ladder very slowly, you can go very far, right? But you can also feel that blockage in the beginning, like, oh yeah, I want to grow, but hey, and I know I have it, Aries, but how do I do it? Slowly but surely. So you can gain a lot of authority amongst your work, which is nice. So do things also not by experimenting too much in the job. I would rather do it step by step, you know, by the book. That's Saturn, right? So climbing the ladder very slowly but surely. Not if you're just having your just job and you're asking for a car and a this and a that, and start slowly but surely. Anyway, that was Cancer. Was that Cancer? Yes. Well, for other people, if they say like, yeah, but I'm not working, then this is about the 10th house is a second ascendant. So it might be that you are going to set a little bit more boundaries with society, so to speak. And also with parents, so that you're gonna, for some reason, that you are maturing. You are becoming actually your own parent. And there is a discussion with astrologers. Some say the 10th house is mom, some say the 10th house is dad. But hey, if you have a situation with one parent, it simply means you becoming that parent internally. Anyway, and that is the work, right? And not so much the career that I was talking about. Leos, this is your 9th house. You're one of those signs that have it here easy. Why? Because Leo and Aries go well together. We call it a trine. Although Saturn in the 9th house has definitely its challenges, and definitely in Aries, because this trines your energy, you're going to have the more positive result of this. So what is the 9th house? The 9th house is study, it's learning, it's your belief system, it's the higher mind, you could say. It's what you're believing. your mindset. It's your connection with all there is. Some call it the divine, some call it God, some call it Allah, some call it some call it nature, right? So something that is above us, you could say, above our ego, or our higher self, even. Now, all of that, so the mindset and whatnot, Saturn comes in. And Saturn wants to work hard, it wants to bring structure. So that is what it's going to do to your belief system. Now, as I said, the downside of a Saturn coming into the ninth house, or the challenge, is often that people have a bit rigid systems, belief systems. They are very rigid, and of course, with other people, the communication can become very cold when you're doing that. When you say it's my way or the highway, there's no much room. But this Saturn is trying your energy, which shows the positive side is available, which could mean long studies that you're going to start, and studies that has to do with higher knowledge, right? The metaphysical side of life, but also universities and things that you have to study on a bigger level than learning how to knit, or learning, not that that's lower, not at all, it's complementary. But I've seen it very much with people who go to university, for instance. Saturn in the ninth house, yeah, that means you're gonna get there with hard work. I know sometimes you say hard work, you don't have to do it. That happens as well. That would be Jupiter crossing your ninth house, right? But Saturn suggests, taking little steps every day. You do the learning, and you're not just gonna do nothing the whole week and then Saturday, like the whole day studying. No, I would recommend, consistent, persistent, and so on. The same with publishing. It could also mean teaching, learning skills. It could mean that for work, you have to structurally go travel a lot. But again, this trines your energy. So this is going to be fine. And on a very positive level, this is your mindset is going to be very grounded, right? So a very grounded mindset. If you would have had, like before, a mindset that is all over the place, like today you believe this, and today you believe that, now it's going to be more structured, okay? So in the beginning, of course, it could mean a disconnection like with people, because you argue so much, because it's your way or the highway. Also with God, that you say like, oh, God is Saturn, right? Because the ninth house is like, God is Saturn. So the challenge will be that you start from abundance and not from scarcity, and on all levels, right? In a good way, it could mean it strengthens your morals. It you master your actions. Aries, you master those. You have those, I want to do this and that, but you can master it. And there's a lot of good morals around it. So you could have a look now at your limiting belief systems and really work with them in a way to to get motivated and to not give up for sure when you want to go forwards in your life. So it's disciplining your higher mind. I can't put it in other words. Another thing is lawsuits, right? With Saturn in the ninth house, it can mean that, a lawsuit comes in, but by working consistently and by the book, right? You're not going to do crazy stuff. You can go through this. And yes, maybe a delay, and it's going to take a while, but when Saturn is out of that house, there is a resolving of this. Okay, Virgos, Saturn in the 8th house. You're going to have Saturn in the 8th house. What is this all about? Well, the 8th house is a very hidden house, so that could be a bit challenging. You're going through some challenges, but people are not going to see this. This is a bit of a hidden house. And the 8th house is the house of our fears, our transformation. It's the death and the rebirth, they say. It's the house of the occult. It's the house of the finances, of the people that we live with, or that the resources that we share. It's the value that we get by other people. Saturn comes in, so it's there to test it. It's there to test, it's there to structure this, and it's going to challenge that. It's also intimacy. The 8th house is intimacy. You know, it's not just sex. That's the 5th house, but it's intimacy, which means vulnerability. And of course, Saturn is like, ooh, I'm afraid. So again, depending on your story, in general, you could say the 8th house, it's emotional security. It represents that Scorpio energy. So with Saturn there, it means lessons. It means testing times. It means also you're going to have, after this 2.5 years, if you're doing it that way in slowly but surely, and you're going inwards and you're working on yourself, you're working on your shadows, you're going to have emotional mastery. So that's what Virgos are here now experiencing. You're working hard for what? For emotional security. That's the 8th house. And so it can begin, of course, with when Saturn enters that, and depending on your story, that you feel a bit of a shortage of that. There is a vulnerability, and Saturn kind of blocks that, whether it is in intimacy, relationships, whether it is addictions, you know, the shadow. That Saturn is like, hey. Saturn is good for that, for battling it, battling your fears, and by introspection, by understanding them, by working hard on the 8th house is also the psychology, the occult, having an interest in that, working with that can really, really help you. It's a mastery of that. A mastery. When I see Saturn going through the 8th house, it's not my favorite transit to explain because it's a tough one. But I've always seen when people understand it, when people do the work on themselves, that is, they come out very much healed, way stronger than they already were. So that fear can be resolved by an understanding. And on another level, so first, you know, that deep psychological, emotional understanding. It's also in relationships, of course. So there could be a situation where, you know, maybe you're just coming out of a bad relationship and you're a bit more scared. You don't want to, but at the same time, you kind of want a deep and intimate relationship. You don't want the fakeness. Maybe you just had it, or maybe you had a relationship where you were very, very open and you were hurt, right? So it's like the Saturn coming in, it depends on your situation, but it's like, oh, I'm going to protect myself. But you know, at the same time, when I do that too much, I don't experience love. I don't experience intimacy. I don't experience the juiciness of life. So, and it's about working on that and understanding it, working on your fears, working on your imaginative fears as well. It could mean just that nothing really happened, but intrinsically, or how do you say that? That you need to work on those, or you know that you have to work on your fears if you want to go on in your life and you want to get up a level, right? So, but it's a good time to do so. So when you're doing this, when you're working on yourself, I've seen it many times when Saturn goes through the 8th house, people learn about astrology, about psychology, and they learn to understand themselves better. And that's a process that is slow. But because of that, you gain strength and you gain where the core is of the problem, where the pattern is of the problem, then you can go for that. And then you do little steps by by going to the root of the matter of knowing the pattern, why you are fearful of something, you can work on that. And otherwise it's superficial. You stay fearful and it becomes bigger and bigger, and this could be about fears about existence, because it's in Aries, right? So fears about taking space. Where is that coming from? Maybe from, of course, childhood trauma and so on can be really healed here with Saturn going through that 8th house. But again, it's through introspection. It's not going to come out of the blue. So not feeling entitled and all of that, and working on that, you know, doing some therapy, doing understanding where is that coming from, healing that wound. And on another level, this is a financial house. As I said, it often is the resources that you share with a partner, with a business partner. Saturn coming in, it's the income of your spouse or girlfriend, boyfriend. So literally it can mean that the income of your spouse is going down, or the income of your spouse, there are some struggles there. But whatever it is, it means that it is important for you to be understanding that being reliant on someone, right, is maybe you were in the past too reliant, right? I'll give you an example. Maybe you are married and you take care of the children. That was the you know, your husband is gonna, you know, the classical example. Your husband is gonna do the work and bring in the income. You're taking care of the kids. But all of a sudden, because of the economy, whatever, Saturn comes into your 8th house. You can't be that reliable on the resources of your spouse. But it's about going within. So what can I do to kind of balance this out and kind of work through this? Because when you work, when you're seeing the introspection of this means like you being sufficient, you being doing things in a different way, and with a structure, it can help you out so that when his income is going up again, you feel even stronger than before because you worked on yourself, right? It's about that. It's about no codependency. Maybe that is just a lesson that you're learning, to be interdependent connection and not so much codependent. Maybe the balance was a bit too much like this, and this is just a restoring of the balance. And so maybe you're going to do maybe a job where you work one day on a Saturday and the problem is solved. But you have to do this for a year or two, right? And that will have given you also strength in a way, right? So the same for inheritances and so on. You might get an inheritance, but a bit of delayed, or you have to work for it, or you have to be doing things by the book. I would recommend, with Saturn going through the 8th house, you have to do the things by the book, or first you have to do this and then you have to do that. Do these steps. You know, it's better to accept Saturn than to work against it, because then it can be very, very feeling very depressive energy. So it's a transformation, right? So don't resist the transformation. You know, it's the mastery of this transformation. It's resilience that you are building. So yeah, and it's also the trust, right? It's gaining trust regaining your trust step by step. It takes time, and take your time, right? But it's also a knowledge of, I don't have intimacy. I want this in my life. And I'm going to work on it slowly but surely, rather than being sad about it and putting everything on other people that it's their fault. No, it has to do with, how do I regain this? It's very, very internal, but very interesting indeed. Librans, of course. Libra, Saturn in your 7th house. That's relationships. And particularly if you have your planets at the very beginning of Libra, you're going to feel this. You have Saturn there in the 7th house. So this is about hard work, testing times, right? Wherever it comes in. It doesn't want to say that relationships are always hard work. Not at all. But it depends on your story. So Saturn in the 7th house means like, okay, if you have been putting your head in the sand, for whatever reason, it's no judgment, but your head was in the sand for many years and you're in a relationship and Saturn comes in, you will have to do something, right? It's that taking responsibility for your relationship. You can't just say like, yeah, it's always the way it went. It's about taking those responsibilities and seeing the relationship for how it is, right? A typical thing for Libra, of course, is that Libra, what is very important for a Libran is loyalty, right? And it's also, it's not only, it's about keeping the balance, right? What is fair? That's very important for Librans. But sometimes they go too far in that. They are too flexible in that. And then they start to please too much, right? And with Saturn getting into the 7th, you can have a spouse or a girlfriend, boyfriend that becomes very critical towards you. And maybe that is for the better, because you've done nothing in a relationship, or maybe they do everything and you do nothing, then yes, this is a restoration. But if you're saying, hey, I do so much, I put in 80, he or she is putting in 20, and now they even want to have more, then this could really be indeed one of those times where you decide that no, this relationship needs to end. So don't think that Saturn crossing to the 7th house is a divorce, or it's certainly not like sometimes people even say like, oh yes, Saturn in the 7th house, yeah, we are we are having the relationship in more structure there, and we go up a level. That happens, but it's very rare, depending on your own horoscope, of course. Maybe you have a lot of trines going on and whatnot. But normally, in general, for the 80-90% of the people having Saturn in the 7th house, it's work. It's definitely when you're in a relationship. I'll get to you in a minute if you don't have a relationship. But if you're in a relationship, it's like a testing time of, it's a reassessment. Do I really want this? Okay, so I'm giving 80, he or she is giving 20. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So you can't just put your head in the sand. That's basically it. And that's a good thing. So there could be coldness towards a spouse or a girlfriend, boyfriend, or a disconnection that you're feeling. But on the other hand, if both people still love each other, if both people want to go up in their life, this could mean a time where they work on their relationship. I hate the word working on a relationship because I totally don't believe in that. I mean, if you always have to work on your relationship, because that means that unless you have Saturn in the 7th, that's your karmically working point, so to speak. But now it is time there for working on your relationship. And slowly but surely, on a regular basis, I would recommend you to do that. On another level, if you don't have a relationship, Saturn crossing the 7th house might be that you're a bit more fearful and cautious in relationships, that you're fearful of connecting. And that has to do, in Aries, that has to do with taking space, and it has to do with that balance between taking space and by responsibilities towards that person. So it could mean that you're challenging that. On another level, if you say, I'm just single, getting Saturn through the 7th house, the people that you're going to attract are probably going to be, well, good chance that they're going to be more Saturnal, which means serious, but also, fiery, because it's Aries after all, but serious. They want to go, maybe a bit grumpy even, Saturn in Aries, but serious, and they want to climb the ladder, and they are very demanding towards themselves, and also it could mean towards you. Whatever it is, it's about embracing this energy, right? It's about embracing the energy. You better embrace it instead of working against it. So if you feel more criticized by your partner, again, this could start here. You have to deal with that problem now and not later on, right? But if you're attracting like serious people, you can learn a lot from that. you can learn a lot from that, because you say maybe like, oh yes, it's like you can attract partners who are like operating a bit like a parent towards you. It depends on you if you like it or not. If you like it, you could say, yeah, I still have to learn a lot. I attract this partner who knows a lot about business and I don't know anything about business and I want. Then attracting such a partner is fantastic. The same with business partners, right? It depends on what you are in at your life. If you say like, oh, I'm in a business partnership and for many, many years, I know how my business is running. And now all of a sudden you have this Saturn crossing your descendant and you're having that grumpy business partner, right? You will have to deal with it. You will have to deal with it. You can't just say, I'm just not gonna do anything. And it will be harder to break up as well. Saturn in the 7th house, it's not going to be just breaking up like Uranus crossing it and done. And you're, you know, you have a lot of courage, you're doing it, and then off you go. No, it's Saturn. It's like, long-lasting contracts. On another level, if you, again, work hard on that contract that you're having with a business partner, with a married partner, with boyfriend, girlfriend, you're working hard, you're going to have mastery of that connection. You're going to have maturity, loyalty. So it's really about regulating those things, connections. Scorpios, this is happening in your 6th house. Saturn in the 6th house. What an energy that is. Saturn it's also in a sign that is ruled by Mars, just like you. You know, your ancient ruler is Mars. And now you're having Saturn there coming into your 6th house. The 6th house in big chunks, this is your lifestyle. 6th house is your, you could say your day-to-day life, your day-to-day work that you do. The people that work for you, that could be that as well, like servants and so on. And also the 6th house is your health, right? So when Saturn comes in here, it's going to test that. It's going to test for this 2 upcoming years, you know, that energy that I described in the beginning, that is applicable. So again, it depends on your situation. If you are like a young person and you just go study, I've seen it plenty of times, they're getting Saturn in the 6th house, which simply means getting routines, getting good routines, sartorial routines. You eat 3 times a day, you study a couple of hours a day, and so on. I can only recommend to embrace that Saturn. And then you can do something new, Aries energy. Maybe it's the first time. The same for a job. Maybe it's a new job that you're in, and you get Saturn in the 6th house. It's your learning school. You might not like it that much because you say, do I have to go through that with all those structures and regulations and doing things like, you know, from the book? I would say go for it, because you are going to learn so much that you are going to improve. Within 2.5 years, you're really going to master and be way more disciplined, that you will not only take into your life or this job or this study that you're starting to do, but for the rest of your life. I mean, Saturn in the 6th house is about discipline in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day routines. So if people are saying to me, I want to, to work out, or how am I going to do it? I would say do some strict things there. And consistently, it's going to help you. Within 2.5 years, you're going to have a tremendous result. And guess what? It's going to be a habit, right? So it's like going to the gym. Saturn in Aries, it's going to the gym. Absolutely, absolutely, dear Scorpios. It's going to the gym. You do work hard every single day on the body, Aries, right? And it's going to do you good for your health. The same, if you want to improve your health, I would do Saturnial things. I would not do the crazy stuff too much, maybe to a lesser amount, And with the crazy stuff, I mean the alternative stuff. It's not the crazy stuff. It's not the crazy stuff. It's the alternative stuff. I would really go with Saturn there, go by the book, do things as it's supposed to be, because that's the energy of Saturn. right? Saturn in the 6th house. It can make someone in 2.5 years way more disciplined, way more healthy, because you're working on, and again, it's not with a shortcut. It's not with a diet that you lose like 10 kilos in a couple of months. And no, I would not recommend that. I would do, the slowly but surely. It makes me think of boarding school, or how do you say that? Um, yeah, I have Saturn in my 6th house. And I had, at the age of 8, boarding school up until my 12th. That's Saturn in the 6th house. That is from a young age, rules, discipline, and, it's difficult to get out of that. But it's giving you rewards at the end of it, right? The lifestyle, the discipline, go for it. There's good thing. So you can see, it's bad. I have to do so much work now at that work, or I just started my own project and it takes a while to work. If you're going to do this with Saturn, it's victim role. It is like guilt tripping, I don't have any discipline, blah, 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 blah. Right? You're going to get deeper and deeper. Another good thing is be of service. Saturn in the 6th house. If you say like, oh, I see this energy coming, the best thing you can do in the job that you already do, or in a new job, be of service with people. Do it from the heart. That's Saturn in the 6th house. Because you're doing good stuff with that energy then, right? You can take care. It's so good, Saturn in the 6th house, for you see that very often in people who kind of do work for the sick, being a counselor of some sort for sick people, not for 6 people, but for sick people, or for people who need the help of others in difficult situations. The 6th house is the house of fixing problems. So do that for these people, right? Because that's Saturn in the 6th. So if you really don't want to go for that, it's a lot of work, it's hard working, and blah, blah, blah. So it's not going to be easy to change a job with Saturn there. But if you do it consistently and you work hard to improve, the work, the experience after this, you will have the skill. You may be sure of this. It's also hard to, it's not going to be the easiest to change routines. Again, I'm referring to, I have Saturn in my 6th house, a routine change. It's not easy for me. But it's about consistency, and it's about doing little steps. Little steps goes a long way. I think of the term of compound interest. For those of you who are in the financial world, that's Saturn in the 6th house. It's a resilience that you are. It's building character. Saturn in the 6th house. Whatever you are in stage of life, whether it is going for a new job, whether it is being in the same job, and you can't really go out of it, embrace that Saturn. Do the skills and know that, I've got a plan within 2 years, 2.5 years, when the Saturn is gone. Maybe then you have, maybe you have a debt of 2.5 years, and you have to work on that, and you have to work to improve your income, right? And you're doing that, and you're working on your skills, and you're working on the day-to-day work, and you are really being appreciative towards that. Then in the long term, you're going to get the rewards. If you have people working for you, you might be, with Saturn in the 6th, being a little bit more, finding this a challenge, right? So, but again, it is what it is, and you do it step by step. It's also, you could battle also a disease or an illness. Again, if this is not your story, it's not going to be your story. But if you say, I have some problems here and there, with Saturn there, it means like slowly but surely do something in the long run, do something realistic with your problems. Having that discipline is going to help you, right? Because overcoming this gives you a lot of power, right? I'm referring to the boarding school, right? That I was when I was so young. That's terrible. I would never recommend someone doing that. That's terrible. But on the other hand, it gives me a lot of empowerment to do things that I don't like to do. I mean, so you see, it gives you a tough energy. And so don't think like, oh, I'm going to have 2.5 years, Saturn in my sixth house. No, it's going to make you, if you embrace it in that respect, that, hey, I'm going to be way more disciplined, way more structured. And that is maybe, that's going to make your life easier for all the rest of the other areas of your horoscope. It's true. Anyway, enjoy it. Sagittarians, lovely. And I'll tell you why. Because Saturn is going to be in your fifth house. Yuck, you would say. Ugh. The fifth house is the house of the Leo, and it wants to express itself. And then you're having Saturn there, coming in and saying, hey, do you have money for that hobby? All that kind of things. But guess what? Sagittarius and Aries go very well together. It's called a trine energy. So this energy of Saturn in your fifth house can work easily for you in your favor. So let's get started with the favor. I'll talk about the challenges as well, because certainly in the beginning you're going to feel more the challenges. But as I said, don't forget, with Neptune there, Saturn there, you can make a dream come true in that house. Okay, so again, what is the fifth house in big chunks? It is your projects. It's also starting your own business, fifth house stuff, right? It's the risk that you're taking in life to start up a business. It's also the things that you enjoy to do, the hobbies, the recreation, love, right? A relationship starts in the fifth house. It's the love, it's the creativeness, it's the openness of your heart and showing who you are. It's that expressiveness. And it's also children, the children that you have. And these are the biggest, items of the fifth house. Now, Saturn, again, it wants to test it. It wants to strengthen it. It wants to master it. So if you're starting now some sort of a business, an upstart of a certain business, and everything that is risk-taking here, Saturn, it is like risk-taking but with caution and with a lot of Saturnal kind of classical rules. If you would go to buy shares, for instance, this would be do this low-risk shares instead of doing the high risk, right? If you're having Jupiter there, maybe crossing, that's a whole other story. Right? So, but whatever it is, the same with starting up a business. If you want to start up a business, you want to start up a project, you want to start up your creative endeavors, how to make them lucrative, how to express them all. Don't think like, oh, Saturn, I'm not going to be creative anymore. I'm not going to be able to sell my paintings anymore. No. Saturn means do the work, do hard work on them. Even, in a structural, consistent way, do the hobby. So it can become an extra income, for instance. This is Saturn trining your energy, right? Which means it's giving you stability, it's giving you security from that fifth house. So I've seen it many times that people are very creative. Saturn comes in, and they always say, oh yeah, I'm creative, but I don't know how to, how I have to sell my work. Or Saturn is about those 2.5 years, work on it to give it structure and to do things by the book, right? So it's not about shortcuts for big businesses. And no, it's doing things by the book, a bit in a dull way, Saturn. And you might be a bit fearful, Aries is, oh, I want to go, but Saturn is, ooh, are you good enough? So it's taking space slowly but surely. And again, after these 2.5 years, you can have really things going forward for you in those creative endeavors. The same with dating, right? If you would say, I'm single, I would recommend you to do slowly but surely, Saturn, being serious in love life is going to help you more, right? It could feel also a little bit more that you in the beginning feel a bit disconnected with the things that you love to do, or with your children, or with love. But again, it's that testing time. It's about improving that connection. So it's a serious attitude towards, I can't stress this enough, towards hobbies, towards your projects, towards lovers. It's not going to be the easiest to relax in the beginning, because Saturn is like guilt if you're enjoying yourself, right? But don't go too far with that. Remember the introduction. This is about taking space, but slowly but surely. So this is a mastery, right? Saturn, when it crosses, you becoming a master in a project, in a certain endeavor. It's like also your relationship with lovers, right? Don't think that, I won't have a relationship. No, the ones that you're gonna have are going to be Saturnal, are going to demand, maybe you in the past never had to work for relationships. Very common with Sagittarians, because they are ruled by Jupiter, right? And their fifth house is Aries, which is, bold and start a relationship yesterday. But now with Saturn, it can mean those 2.5 years, a bit of more work there. It's not the Casanova that there used to be, but it's about, hey, you work on working on yourself, right? It's introspection, but not like it's getting you down. It's realistic. And you want to start a new love, or you want to start a new project, it's amazing. But when you're starting a new project and so on now, it's good, even if there are a bit of you're not going to take those risks, those crazy risks. You're not going to put all your shares in or your money in one share. You're not going to do that, definitely not. And that kind of thing. You're going to be Saturnal. You're going to be serious in these projects for the next 2.5 years. And when it leaves that house, it's going to give you the reward. The same for children. It can mean that your children are entering a phase where they're a bit more serious, where they are becoming a little bit more mature. So that is at its best, right? I mean, there's not a wrong thing about it, right? You could have a child that goes to a big school, that's Saturn, right? And they're learning more, the discipline, the maturation. But it can also mean that in the beginning, remember, Saturn trines your energy, so you're good. But in the beginning, that it's a bit tougher. You feel a little bit that disconnection, or you feel a little bit like, oh, they're getting a bit older. And there is that disconnection, but it's a good one because they are becoming mature. You see what I mean? So it's a very positive energy trining your energy. And what it could also mean is, of course, if you want children, don't panic with Saturn in the fifth house. It could simply mean that you will have to do the things that you have to do, very consistently and repetitively. Have a lot of sex, right? With Saturn in the fifth house. It's I'm just joking. This is not. I probably don't take this personal, right? Don't take this personal. Very important when you're trying to get kids. You know how draining it can be, and it's not working out. It's like you do the thing consistently, and then you let go. And the knowing that if you do the things that you need to do, after these 2.5 years, you do the work, and you're good. You're taking care of yourself, and all of that. It can be really, really rewarding. But as long as Saturn is transiting this fifth house, it's a lot about mastery, right? Also mastery of your, the things that you love the most, the things that your heart wants the most. To be serious about that, to be, classical about that. You want something new there, and off you go. But all in all, beautiful energy for you because it trines your energy. Capricorns, this is very important for you because Saturn is your ruler, first and foremost. And it's also in the 4th house. So your cardinal sign, Aries is a cardinal sign. So it's transiting your 4th house. This is your emotional well-being. This is your emotional security. And literally it's your home. It's your parents. Some people, astrologers say it's your dad. Some astrologers say it's your mom. It's out of my experience, it's different for everyone. So I say parents, your connection with that. And the 6th house, the 4th house is again your emotional state. Now, depending on your age, you're going to feel that this is a welcome thing or not. Don't forget Neptune is there as well. So making a dream come true is possible here around those topics that I just said. But Saturn, which means the practical work needs to be done. For instance, let's say you want a house, you want to buy your own house. Saturn comes in the 4th house. This could mean like a challenge of a testing time where you have to do a lot in the house, you have to do a lot of arrangements and so on. Of 2.5 years before you can really say, oh, I have my dream here, right? It can be as simple as that. Saturn means hard work. The 4th Aries is something new. You want to have a new home, for instance, and you're going to work hard for it. Consistently, right? You're not going to work like just in the weekend, but you're going to work in a consistent way, or maybe just in the weekend, but every weekend, right? In a consistent way to have this. So if you are younger, this is a bit more challenging. And this could mean like feeling a bit more disconnected with parents. Also, when you're older, this can mean feeling a disconnection with a parent. But it's there for a reason, right? For young people, this could mean that they are going out, go to college, they have to leave the house. And Saturn, they're a bit homesick. Can be as simple as that. Because this is a bit like Saturn on the moon, right? The cusp of the 4th house. So it's a lot about becoming your own parent. Absolutely. It's in a positive, because Saturn crossing the IC, it's not my favorite transit to explain. But at its best, it's about you getting mastery over your emotions. So if you say like, oh my goodness, last couple of years, I reacted too much, I was too reactive, and you're seeing Saturn, it's a good thing. It means that you're going to work on, instead of being reactive, you're going to be responsive. You're going to learn how to master your emotions. And that takes time. Some good things, sometimes they take time, not always. But now with Saturn in that 4th house, this is for you to work. On another level, again, it is, well, I already said it, right? I'm not going to repeat this all. But yeah, it's a responsibility that you're feeling, right? You being very much taking your own, you being the leader, you being the master of your 4th house. How beautiful is that? It's a beautiful thing when you go through this and you are respecting that Saturn and Aries, the challenges of taking space and still taking space, but not really feeling that guilty. That's going to be your challenge on an emotional level for sure. So it can mean like gardening, real estate, that you're starting this, Aries, but it's, with slow process, slowly but surely, you're doing a lot of work, you're learning about this property. I would recommend you to go for, a simple, maybe an old property, right? Because it's Saturn, but it's about this consistent energy that you're putting in. So yeah, taking on those, instead of taking on responsibilities of other people of your family, it could be that as well. Saturn crossing the IC could mean that a parent, you need to, they're going through a Saturnal phase, whatever it is. so that you're of assistance, helping them, and so on. So you have that responsibility there. But again, this is temporary, and but the main thing is the control of your emotions. So that you become emotionally way more mature than you already are. Again, don't forget, Saturn is your ruler. So you are in that fourth house. So it's like an extra kind of responsibility of you working hard for getting a beautiful home, for a good home, for a secure home. You're working on your security, right? And that's going to take 2.5 years. It's better to embrace it and to do the work than resisting it and say, no, I don't want a responsibility. Then it's going to become even harder. Aquarians, this is transiting your third house. This is your ancient ruler, Saturn, and it sextiles your energy. So Aquarius and Aries, that is sextiling energy, which shows you're going to have the more positive side of Saturn going through the third house. But again, depends on your level where you are, your situation, but you're going to have that Saturn coming into that third house of yours. And the third house is how you commute your connections with your relationship with peers, your relationship with brothers and sisters, siblings, your relationship with neighbors, your communication, the style of communication, your thoughts, the way you kind of speak, the way you kind of interact on a day-to-day basis, the things that you say to yourself, that's all third house. So it is Aries, so you're used to do this in a rather honest way, open way, but Saturn here going through your third house suggests a more seriousness in these matters, a more when it comes to the relationships, like with brothers and sisters and so on. It could mean like in the beginning you feel a little bit of a disconnection. There is like a testing time here. Things need to be restored. There's an imbalance here. Whatever it is, it can mean that you have to take a little bit more distance and that you have to really work on these connections more than you are supposed to do. And for whatever reason it is, right? There could be some problems in the family, and you have Saturn coming into the third house. It doesn't mean to say you're going to disconnect with your siblings or you're going to disconnect with neighbors. No, it means like more caution, more seriousness, more, slowing down of the communication even, right? And being a little bit more controlling or mastering of what comes out of your mouth, so to speak. And so if you're doing that, it can improve even your connection with these people after Saturn is gone out of this house around 2028. So this is just a temporary energy. On another level, this is the way that you think, Saturn there. Be aware the challenges of not thinking in scarcity, right? It's a lot about you mastering your thoughts, and it could be very challenged now that you have that monkey mind, right? Aries want to go everywhere, and that you have to, it's mindfulness, so to speak. You could learn mindfulness with Saturn going, and it's a new thing. Aries, Saturn going through the third house. You could study something that demands quite a lot of consistency. Like you're starting how to learn how to make clothes, right? It's the third house is the Gemini house, which is the hands. And so you could learn a skill that is about handiness, an instrument, playing an instrument, third house, like you're trying to learn how to play maybe the flute, something that is really loud because it's Aries after all. But with learning every single week, you're learning and you're going to improve. It's not going to be a shortcut, but you're going to after this cycle, you're really gonna master this, right? It can be something simple as that you're learning a skill and putting a lot of effort. Saturn is repetition, so you're putting a lot of this repetition into it. And remember, Saturn is your ancient ruler, so you are in this house. You're in this house of new ways of thinking, new thoughts, new connection, new way of connecting, which is a bit more serious now. It's not always going to be like that. If you say, oh my goodness, I have problems with my neighbors now, it's not always going to be like that. It's doing in a mature way. How are you communicating in a mature way? It's taking that space and control and respect and all these Aries kind of stuff as well. So you might in the beginning, yes, feel a little bit not understood, but again, embrace this Saturn in your third house, not understood by these people that I was just saying. But working hard to express yourself in a different way, right? Like it depends again on your age and on where you are in life. I've seen many times when people have Saturn in the third house that they relocate, for instance, and that they have to learn a new language. Saturn in the third house. So you see, it's like the communication. That's literally people are not. You're not going to understand them. They're not going to understand you, and so on. So it's a mastery of communicating. So you're here tested for, you can get an upgrade for your communication, your style, but it's about working hard here. Saturn is never like, if you would have Jupiter to the third house and you're a student, you want to know I'm 15 years old and I have Jupiter in the third house, it's going to be very easy, right? Depending on other things as well, but in general. Now, Saturn means, yeah, you're going to get there, but with hard work, right? So, rational thinking, very, very important. But again, in the beginning, you might feel a little bit stuck in your thinking as well. So the challenge for you is negative thinking. The challenge for you is not to be too judgmental as well towards those other people. Those other people might be a bit judgmental towards you, but that's, either their problem or you adjust. There could be, starting new things and so on, could be a little bit more that you're slower because you're having that monkey mind and you overthink. But again, use this energy in a good way, in a positive way. Play an instrument or, what takes a lot of work. Instead of worrying, use this energy in a positive way. But remember, this Saturn is sextiling your energy. And again, making a dream come true is possible here, right? So learning that skill and whatnot. Last but not least, we're having here Pisces, and this is happening in your second house. So Pisces, you had Saturn in your first house for quite a while, and now it's shifting into your second house. The second house, what is that? It's a couple of things. It's your resources, the money you make. That second house. It's your self-worth. It's the confidence. It's also what you put in your mouth. It's also Saturn in the second house. The second house could mean that you love, for instance, spicy food, but Saturn is like more, you eat more potatoes. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding, actually, but I'm giving you examples of Saturn going through the second house is very good for people who want to have weight loss, because Saturn is reducing and the second house is what you put in your mouth. Anyways, so these things, the confidence, of course, and the work that you do, the finances, that Saturn coming in there means like 2.5 years, there's going to be here an opportunity for you to master more these things, to master more better, in a better way, your money, to master how you earn your money, to master how you have the confidence. So typically in the beginning, it might be more challenging. Might be you're having the feeling of, my finances, it's not so good, or you want to have a new structure. So instead of panicking and saying, oh my goodness, Saturn in the second house, my income is going to go down and whatnot. No, it's about working hard to get it in a better way. Even though in the beginning it might be a little bit more of a struggle, in the long run, it's going to give you more rewards than in the beginning. Although I never like to say that you have to work hard for the money, because I don't believe in that. And with many people, it's definitely not the case. You know, look at people around you. The people who are working the hardest are often the people who have the less income, the lower incomes. But so this is not something that I want to say to people like, you have to work hard for the money. But now for you, dear Pisceans, it is true. For these 2.5 years, it's for you. The best way for you to gain money in the long run is to work consistently, right? Not to work like you know your health is gonna go down. That's not what I mean. But it's like doing the work consistently, doing the work slowly but surely, gaining momentum. It's compound interests. Saturn in the second house, right? It's like that. You know, you have 100 first that you invest, and you get 110 because it's 10% raise, and now you put in the 110. Then you're gonna get more, and so on and so. Compound interest. That's Saturn in the second house. That's slowly growth, but you know, before you know it, after these 2.5 years, you're having that snowball effect. So embrace it. Embrace this energy, because the more you embrace it, the more it's going to give you the reward at the end of this transit. So managing your finances, dealing with it, what is the thing to be conscious of is to not go into lack mentality. You could be, it means like, maybe you're saying, but Veerle, I'm having like, yeah, I'm having a pretty nice income. I want to go higher many years, but it never works. Saturn in the second house can mean work on that mentality of lack, because Saturn in the second house can give you a mentality, a lack mentality, and how to work on that to get into an abundance mentality. So it can be as simple as that you need these 2.5 years to work on your mentality around you know, your belief system of the values that you're giving yourself. You know, remember the taking space. That is this Aries energy. Am I entitled? Am I entitled to have a beautiful home? Am I entitled to have this or that in my life when it comes to resources? So yes, what is very important? What is valuable? What do I think is important? With Saturn to the second house, and this is something that Pisceans have sometimes problems with doing. With Saturn in the second house, it can be very interesting to go for the minimalistic trends, right? Like less is more. And, you know, a lot in case for you to be more happy, to be more content. Saturn to the second house, I've seen that quite a lot with people that not necessarily that they're having less income or whatever, but more in a sense of their value, what they're valuing in life. There's a cooling or a cooling down of it in a way, and specifically around the materialistic stuff, and that they are in those 2.5 years that they're really taking time to kind of test what is valuable in my life and what is not. Do I need this car? Do I need 2 cars in my life? Do I need them? Am I happy? You know, that one car is standing in the garage and I'm paying taxes and whatnot. Maybe it's time to get rid of it. You know, that kind of thing. Less is more. The quality of the food, maybe also less is more. And of better quality, you know. So yes, it's a very interesting energy to master your value and your resources way more than ever. Anyway, what a long video. I hope this was helpful. This was helpful, but Saturn is always an interesting planet where we see where we are going to master something in our lives. And if you see it that way, you can do it the positive way and constructive way. And I hope you do see it like that, because it rewards. Absolutely. Anyway, if you want to have a reading with me, click the link below. I hope it was helpful, and see you next time. Bye bye.